Toronto real estate broker Barry LeBeau has not seen this many buyers defaulting in 30 years. 30 years. Think about that, guys. Toronto just saw the worst year for home sales in 23 years. A Toronto real estate broker has not seen this many buyers defaulting in 30 years, which guess what? Puts you back to the 1990s. So let's get right into this article and discuss what is going on. A wave of defaults has real estate lawyers urging pre-sale buyers to be cautious. Now, we have talked about pre-construction and what's going on with these assignment sales and everything like that, but these stories are going to kind of really make you think what is happening with especially these subprime buyers, which we don't have in Canada. I thought everybody has good credit. We have a solid banking system. All right, let's get into this. One BC man lost his $82,000 deposit despite a contract option to transfer to another buyer, basically an assignment. In 2021, Sudip Segal put down an $81,990 deposit on a yet-to-be-built townhouse in Surrey, BC. While it was under construction, he occasionally visited the site to watch it grow. The 52-year-old envisioned the deal taking him steps closer to owning his first Canadian home, but he only had enough for a deposit after a loan from his retired father. He was basically relying on his home sale in India, and then basically making matters worse, he was trying to find a buyer to take over the Canadian deal so he could get a refund. The developers opted to keep his deposit and sell the brand new unit themselves. Segal, who came to Canada in 2016 as a skilled worker, says he is now broke and back to renting, this time a cramped $1,700 a month basement suite with his possessions lined up in suitcases against the walls. He lost his cheaper rental thinking he was about to move into his new home. I may have to return back to India and my Canadian dreams have been ruined and crashed. It's not just Canadians that this is happening to. It's a lot of new immigrants who are seeing their dreams are absolutely shattered. And the housing market in particular is just full of risk. It is spilling over the edge of the glass with risk. And it is quite insane when you think of all these pre-construction deals that have gone on, and you think about all these people that are losing money, all these people that are trying to sell assignments. You can go on the various Facebook groups, or you can go on X and you can see various people posting about it all the time. People are taking huge losses in the housing market, and it's a matter of time before all this moves from the actual people taking those losses to the banks taking those losses, because as we discussed last week, the labor market is not in a stable place. So it's very interesting what is going on there. Segal is part of a growing contingent of Canadians who are defaulting on deals to buy pre-sale or pre-construction condos or homes due to financial pressures. This trend in defaults is part being driven by high interest rates and declining condo values, according to realtors. Many buyers lose their deposits, according to realtors and real estate lawyers across the country. While Segal's circumstances are specific and extreme, other Canadians are also getting a hard lesson of the potential risks of these deals. But, you know, at the time, guys, real estate agents and real estate lawyers would have been saying, yeah, you know, this is a solid investment. Interest rates are at lows right now, and the Bank of Canada is saying they're not going to put them up. I mean, why don't we all just believe the central planners? Let's just all believe what the Bank of Canada is saying. After all, they get it right constantly. I mean, it is just wishful thinking that these people opted to believe these central planners. I never believe a thing that the Bank of Canada has said. I never believe anything that the central planners say, because they're constantly getting things wrong. It's almost like the opposite of what they say actually happens. So anyway, growing problem. Toronto real estate broker Barry LeBeau has not seen this many buyers defaulting in 30 years. 30 years. Think about that, guys. It's happening in droves, said LeBeau. I'm hearing stories about many people walking away. And doesn't this make sense when you go and look at the yield curve and you've got a 30-year government bond that is paying 3.16% right now, and right now up front you're at nearly 5% for a one-year bond. So that is completely backwards, because when you're locking your money up for 30 years, you're taking massive amounts of risks with inflation, the economy, all these different factors. So why on earth are people buying these 30-year bonds? Why is the yield curve inverted? And I think it has a lot to do with what the banks are doing, and we'll get into it because it was almost like the RB CEO actually revealed what they're doing by accident. So anyway, Canada's big bank CEOs see bad debt provisions rising this year. So this is January 9th, 2024. They're already talking about it. Canada's big banks are preparing to set aside more rainy day funds in the fiscal year to deal with rising bad debts as their customers struggle with record borrowing costs and a slower economy. And I think they really underestimate this part here, the slowing economy. I think that's where the banks are really underestimating what's going to happen here. They probably think, oh, we're just going to hit a little bump in the road, maybe a little bit of a recession, but it's not going to be that bad. I mean, it's not like every company under the sun. It's not like the biggest blue chip tech firms are laying off thousands and thousands of jobs and more layoffs are being announced every month. It's not like that's happening, is it? That's exactly what's happening. And not only that, we got the CBA loans thing, which we're going to cover in a separate video. So it is quite frankly insane what is going on. But I just want to show you this because I think this kind of reveals what the banks are doing. So the top banks ended fiscal 2023 on a dismal note with their profits eroded by record rise in PCLs and rising costs. PCLs being provisions for credit losses. So anyway, as we navigate then a rising rate environment last year to a declining rate environment this year, we're really well positioned to capitalize on that, McKay said. And literally, if you were buying the long end of the yield curve, which would be pushing down these long rates, that is how you would be positioned to profit from that, in my opinion. Now, he might be saying, oh, it's because when interest rates come down, guess what? Everybody's going to start buying homes. We're all just going to reset. We're just going to go back to what it was like in 2020 and 2021 and everything's going to be fine. Oh my God. Even if that happened, guys, think what would happen next after that. Because if we were just literally about to repeat what we just went through, then we're going to be preparing for higher borrowing costs again, and people are going to get absolutely screwed exactly like they did this time around by basically getting into this debt trap. More and more people, I believe, are going to get caught in this debt trap. So anyway, that's what I think what is going on there. I do think that this is a lot of insider buying that drives down this yield curve, and that's why it's right 99.9% of the time. That's why its predictability is so on point. It is because essentially all these insiders and banks, they're buying this stuff. There's no other plausible explanation for it. And anyway, let's get on to the most indebted city in Canada right now. Victoria residents are up to their eyeballs in debt. Victoria owns number 2 on the 2023 list of cities in Canada with the highest consumer debt per capita, with a whopping $305,000 owed per person, guys. Per person. Think about that for a second, because you've got loads of renters in Victoria and they haven't got mortgages, yet everybody in Victoria is owing that amount of money. The thing is, a lot of people get it wrong when it comes to the housing bubble. They think of the housing market and housing prices, but really what it is, it's a credit and it's a debt bubble. That's what it is at its core. It just so happens that the debt and credit focused its way into real estate. It could have gone into stocks, it could have gone into tulips, it could have gone into many different things, but in this case, the obsession and the mania went into the real estate market in Canada. But at its core, like I said, it is a debt bubble. And that's what people fail to understand. You know, when I hear this all the time, we're having all these people coming into this country. Okay, so if all these people are bringing in money, then shouldn't we see the debt levels at least stabilizing instead of just going up more and more every time at a record pace, and the amount of debt per person absolutely skyrocketing? I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous when you think about it. And on the list of cities with the largest credit card debt per capita, Victoria is number 1 with $12,874 on cards per person. Again, this is absolutely insane. Victoria, my gosh, this place is dying anyways, but it makes sense in my opinion because I've been there pretty much every year for the past 5 years now, and I've just seen this place getting worse and worse and worse. More young people are being driven driven out. There's a massive brain drain going on. You've had lots of people retire there. They now can't get any services because they've driven out everybody. Nobody can afford the cost of living there. You've got a lot of speculation that's gone on in the housing market, hence the debt. You've got a lot of people who are struggling to get by, again, hence the debt. And obviously $12,000 per person at today's interest rates on credit cards. So you're talking 20, 30% interest rates. Oh my God, guys, it is unbelievable. And we'll get over to take a look now at what the housing market is actually doing in Victoria. So as you can see on this chart, guys, you basically had the housing market, it peaked out in 2022. We have to remember that when we hit this peak here in the housing market, why was that? That was literally, guys, because the Bank of Canada came in with a 25, 50 basis point rate hike. So it's more about sentiment. It's more about psychology. As I say all the time, these markets, when you're in a bubble, are all psychology. People are constantly trying to relate it to fundamentals when the market has no correlation to fundamentals because it's in a bubble. So you're just literally trading psychology if you're going into this market. And when you get fear, prices crash. That can be in an interest rate environment where rates are coming down. And most of the time, that's actually the case when that's happening because the economy is coming off the rails so badly. So that's one thing that people don't realize. And that's why I highlight that, because a lot of people, a lot of realtors have wishful thinking that they're just going to cut rates and it's off to the races again. And as I said earlier in this video, I put my case to you that if that happens, what happens after that? We just head into the exact same thing as we're in right now, at which point it would be, why would you not rent? Because renters are definitely winning in the situation that we're in right now and have been for actually a long time, even though it doesn't feel like it, because home ownership is getting further and further away from people. So it's kind of crazy what is happening with prices. And now I want to show you this. So Toronto just saw the worst year for home sales in 23 years. We keep breaking these records, guys. So that was the lowest since 2000. And during the 2021 real estate frenzy, it was 121,000, nearly double the 66,000 that they are talking about right here. So just think about that for a second, guys. In Toronto, home sales are down 50% and they're at their lowest level in 23 years. That is quite a massive thing when you think about it. We've got all these different things, the highest amount of defaults I've seen in 30 years. The yield curve is the most inverted that we've ever seen since the 1990s. We have a debt crisis that is 2, if not 3 or 4 times the size of the one in the 1990s. And everybody is telling you that there's going to be a soft landing. And the reality is, when you look at these real estate brokers, when you look at different people and what they say, and then you look at what actually happens. So we saw this bull trap. Now the prices are coming down again in Toronto. But like I said, you cannot take a chart like this and say, oh, you know what, Luke, that just happened because of interest rates. It's just purely interest rates. Because like I said, explain to me how the whole entire market turned on a dime with a 25 basis point hike, if that was the case. Because it's just not, guys. It is literally psychology. I mean, think about that bull trap that we had last year. I mean, was that declining rates that caused that? No, it wasn't. It was psychology, and it happens with every bubble. You see this classic pattern play out. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm perfectly happy to accept that in the future, and maybe we're just going to the moon after this. But if you look at a chart of the bubble, and you look at a chart of any real estate market that is in a mega bubble in Canada, the charts line up exactly the same. And even in markets where prices are hitting new all-time highs like Calgary, Ottawa, and other places, they did actually decline in 2022 as well. And when you have a bull trap, as I've said way back in my videos in 2022, you can even have higher highs with that bull trap. And depending on the size of the bubble as well, that definitely plays a factor in what happens as well. When it really comes down to it, it is the economic implosion that kills these bubbles. There is no doubt in my mind that we have an economic implosion going on here in Canada. So anyway, if you are looking for a VPN, go to expressvpn.com to get around Trudeau's censorship laws. If you enjoyed this video, you might like this video here. You might also like this video here about the labor market. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.